Hey, this is C&D Channel. I'm Chris. This is MMA for you. I'm going to be doing my post-fight analysis for UFC 175. Overall, I thought it was a pretty solid card. I mean, there was a couple grinders here and there, but overall, some really good performances. Fight a year candidate with Chris Weidman versus Machida really tops off the card. I'd say one of the only knocks on this card is a lot of fights lack real divisional relevance. Otherwise, you got some good finishes here. You know, Kevin Casey got the finish. Rob Font, Faber got a finish. You know, Rousey's finish was awesome. So, some pretty good fights as well. As far as bonuses go, Weidman and Machida got Fight of the Night honors, while Rousey and Rob Font got Performance of the Night honors. As far as my picks go, not too bad, 7 out of 10. The Struve versus Mitrione fight was canceled. The ones I missed were Zacharich versus Vasconcelos. Let's see, Weidman versus Machida, I missed that one. And Font versus Roop. I wish I didn't miss that one. I should have been able to call that one though. One thing that was cool about this event is it did have that big event feel to it, which I like. So it makes me wonder what the buy rate's going to be like for this card. But yeah, let's just get started. Chris Weidman defeated Lyoto Machida by unanimous decision. You know, I think there's a lot of doubt with Chris Weidman, especially after the way he beat Anderson Silva both times. But, you know, you got to look at this performance and think, if you didn't already think he's a real deal before, you got to really think he's a real deal now. One thing that really helped Weidman, especially in the earlier rounds, was his pressure fighting. Didn't really let Machida settle. In the third round, really boxed up Machida. But Machida came back in the fourth and fifth. Fourth in the big way. Started to land some really good shots in the fourth. Never really gave up in the fifth. I mean, the fifth was a bit arguable. Even during the last couple seconds, Machida went for one last big flurry. So that's good stuff there. And it's really the first time he saw adversity, or Chris Weidman facing adversity and pulling through it. I still kind of question his cardio in the championship rounds in the fourth and fifth. Didn't look that great, and that's when Machida really attacked. But you gotta like what you saw from Weidman here. Strong wrestling, strong striking, good pressure fighting. I thought his kicks looked a bit slow. Machida's takedown defense and overall counter wrestling and ability to get back to his feet was on point. There are some guys in the division that are actually really good at counter wrestling. Whether it's like Luke Rockhold's pretty good at it. Musasi's been improving on that. Jacare is one of the best BJJ practitioners in the world. Tim Kennedy is actually a pretty good counter wrestler as well. I want to say Yoel Romero, but like I've seen him get taken down by the likes of Honey Marks. But nonetheless, that actually goes to the next point as far as who Weidman gets next. Dana was pretty much hinting at Vitor Belfort. But if not him, you know, there's no shortage of challengers. If not him, a good number 2 would be the winner of Musasi versus Jacare. And speaking of no shortage of challengers, I mean, you know, if Machida can get another win, I didn't see many people opposed to a Machida rematch. If not Luke Rockhold, Tim Kennedy, Musasi, Jacare, Belfort, and if like Yoel Romero can get some top 10 wins, he's in that mix as well. So there's no shortage of good challengers and marketable challengers for Rockhold. All of them also possess very different stylistic challenges. Jacare, improved striking, and strong Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu game. Musasi's improving his takedown defense. He's pretty strong off his back, and his striking, it's very different from Machida's. It's more actually boxing oriented too. Of course, I mean, he's more of a kickboxer, but he relies on a jab and whatnot. Rockhold, really tall and lanky fighter with good takedown defense, good ability to get back to his feet when taken down. So, you know, Vitor Belfort, heavy hands, fast hands too. So all very interesting stylistic matchups for Weidman. I would pick Weidman against all of those guys. I favor him. And moving forward, I'll most likely favor him against all those guys. If Romero starts like beating the brakes out of some like top 10 or top 5 guy, I may lean a little towards Romero, considering he's an Olympic level wrestler, huge, good boxer. But otherwise, I think I would most likely favor Weidman moving forward. As far as Machida, who should get next, maybe they were going to match Machida with Tim Kennedy. I think that's a good fight. You can do the loser, Mousasi Jacare. It's not the best fight because he already beat Mousasi, and I know he's buddies with Jacare. While Machida's coming off a loss, Rockhold versus Machida would be a good fight as well. Next fight after that, Ronda Rousey defeated Alexis Davis by knockout 16 seconds in the first round. I mean, it was so bad that Davis was fighting the referee. You got to think that Rousey is just leagues ahead of the rest of her competition. The combination to finish the fight off, right hand immediately goes for the clinch, left knee immediately goes for a judo takedown, goes into like a scarf hold position, rains down clean, I'd say like 8+ unanswered strikes to the face, still holding on to Rousey. And after Rousey unhooks her, Davis is fighting the referee. I mean, Rousey at this point is just so far ahead of her competition and is still steadily improving. The gap in her striking compared to everyone else is getting lesser and lesser. She's just becoming a better and better striker. Still not the best, still charges forward and starts punching. But she's definitely closing that gap. I think one big point to talk about was that post-fight interview and Joe Rogan, taking cues from the guy in the production truck about Rousey fighting on next month's card. Kind of a amateur hour segment there, as one, the production truck doesn't actually make those calls, and Joe probably should have had the foresight to know not to listen to those guys. Dana White was visibly angry. He was saying that his anger was not pointed at Joe Rogan but at the production truck. It was obviously not a call that the higher ups, whether it's Fertitta or White, it's not a call that they made. Rousey's just answering the question. You gotta say, she was getting cheered too, so at this point moving forward, I mean, unless they sign Holly Holm or Cyborg, there's not many great challengers for her. Kat Zingano is probably the last really good challenger for Ronda Rousey. She poses an interesting stylistic matchup just because she does have decent wrestling, and her striking, she has a good Muay Thai base with knees and whatnot. Even Holly Holm, I mean, very much unproven. Probably the strongest stand-up fighter that Rousey would face. More or less unproven on the ground, and she's fighting less than lower tier competition that can't really take her down or really test her ground game very much. Cyborg would be an interesting signing, and that's the fight everyone wants to see. However, we don't know if she can even cut down to 135 and how she would perform at 135. At this point, though, from what I'm seeing from Rousey and her steady improvement, I personally would favor Rousey over Cyborg. I really would. I think she dumps her on her head, to be perfectly honest with her. You know, Cyborg could land some big punches in there. I don't see her overwhelming Rousey. I think even if she tries to overwhelm her, Rousey goes for the clinch, gets that takedown, even with her strength. So there's not many great challengers for Rousey. And the sad thing is, after Kat Zingano and maybe rematches against like Sarah Kaufman or Sarah McMahon or something like that, the level of competition drops off. I mean, the next best challenger for her would be Betchy Correa. You know, and she's as like mid-level as it gets. You know, Amanda Nunes, Jessica Andrade, some people that have win streaks in women's bantamweight, quite honestly, are not what I'd consider like top-level fighters. You know, the way I see it, they're just gonna keep feeding Ronda Rousey. She's gonna be something like Mike Tyson. And she's just beating everyone pretty easy, probably within the first round or so. That's what they're gonna do. You know, she's a draw. She's one of their bigger stars. So that kind of sucks. She's getting more loss, unless it's Cyborg. Even Holly Holm's a bit nameless with the casual fan. She's kind of just getting nameless faces. But that's just the way it is, you know. I mean, she's fought the top female fighters of the division: Tate, Kaufman, McMahon. She hasn't fought like Marlos Kunin, I suppose, you know. But otherwise, you know, there's no one else for her to fight, and it's no fault of her division per se. I mean, I heard one guy say, "Oh yeah, like Alexis Davis was a can." You know, it's like, no, she's not a can. She's been the likes of Shayna Baszler when Baszler was still really good. Jessica Evo, even though I don't agree with the decision, and Liz Carmouche, who is top 10. You know, I mean, it's just that everyone else still isn't on her level. I mean, that's just the way it is. It's still a growing division. But at this point, you know, everyone's really far behind. As far as Davis gets next, probably the loser of McMahon versus Lauren Murphy. Otherwise, yeah, Rousey's just so far ahead of everyone else. Next fight after that, Uriah Hall defeated Thiago Marreta Santos by unanimous decision. Hold on. The story of this fight, obviously, is Hall's broken toe. The corner of Hall telling the doctors that his toe was always like that, and it was really messed up, by the way. He is still kicking with said broken toe as well. It was a good showing for Hall in the sense that mentally he gets knocked as far as his mental game goes. To fight through that, you know, really fix his image in that sense. He's getting cheered pretty highly. His post-fight interview about like life's a biatch and whatnot. You know, he has very interesting post-fight interviews. I mean, the guy just kind of rambles and goes off tangent. But people like him. I like him. I don't know about him. There's just he does have a fan-friendly style. He'll go for some really odd strikes, spinning strikes and whatnot. When he's moving forward, dropping his stance, throwing a jab. He found money in a couple moves. Inside leg kick jab was one of his money punches. Grabbing the leg off a kick and and countering with the right hand. He's finding that all day. Santos was in there, but you know, Hall was just better. I don't know if I agree with 30-27, but 29-28, yeah, I agree with that. I think Hall gets a winner of Larkin versus Brunson, or maybe Cesar Mutanz Ferreira next. Thiago Marreta Santos can just get like more lower to mid-tier guys at the division. Next fight after that, Russell Doan defeated Marcus Brimage by unanimous decision. That 30-27 scorecard for Russell Doan was absolutely ridiculous. Totally undeserved. I I can see 29-28, but 30-27 was just a joke. I mean, the story of the fight was Russell Down's grappling versus Marcus Brimmage's stand-up. Brimmage was hitting some good leg kicks. He did have a problem with throwing single leg kicks with no, well, one, there's no follow-up, but two, no setup. He showed some pretty good takedown defense on the last. He's got some heavy hands. Russell Down's stand-up, I didn't like it at all. He would not commit. He'd throw like a 1-2 from like 5 miles away. But his overall grappling was on point. Even when he was on his back, went for an omoplata. Brimage just went out of there as fast as he can. Doan would also take the back of Brimage when he could as well. Both these guys are still good prospects. They're not blue chip prospects. But bantamweight is still a relatively thin division. Brimage looks good at this weight class. Just more lower to mid-tier guys of the division for both of them. On to the prelims. Uriah Hall defeated Alex Caceres by a rear naked choke in the 3rd round. I gotta say that Uriah Hall looked kind of sloppy to me, to be honest with you. He was really sloppily going for the clinch. I know it's kind of his style in a sense, but it was very, very reckless. The way he went about it was very reckless, and it just wasn't pretty. He's just really going at it. Caceres is doing relatively well in the clinch. He would get taken down, got back to his feet pretty well in the earlier rounds, but he made the mistake of giving off his back in the 3rd, to the point where Faber managed to capitalize on it. But Caceres was game and looked good in defeat. This is actually one of those losses that kind of was that moral victory, kind of like it kind of showed he can fight with the top of the division, but there's still some greenness in Alex Caceres, and that's also what this fight showed as well. As far as Faber goes, he's beaten everyone at bantamweight. I don't even know who the next dangerous up and comer he can fight at this point. That isn't a seemingly a mismatch. I mean, yeah, you give him Sergio Pettis or something like that, but what's the point? A good next fight for him would be Cruz if when he returns. I think he said 3-4 months. I think Faber should probably move up, get some fun fights at featherweight. A really fun fight, win or lose, would be if Frankie win or loses against Penn. Frankie Edgar, Uriah Faber. That would be a great fight to see. Otherwise, Faber, I don't know if he's going to fight Dillashaw. I'd like to see it, but if he's not going to fight him, fun fights for Faber. He's in his mid-30s. Don't know if we're starting to see his decline or not. Seems to be able to beat everyone at bantamweight except for Varel. Maybe can't beat Dillashaw. You don't really know. But beats everyone else. And finishes them too. Man, Uriah Faber, his guillotine choke and rear naked choke are money. Those things, he finds them all the time. Especially if he knocks a guy down. He has great killer instinct for sure. Next fight after that, Kenny Robertson defeated Ildemar Alcantara by unanimous decision, 30-26 all around. This fight kind of actually went the way I thought Robertson would win too. He used a superior wrestling. I didn't think he'd have that superior of overall grappling though. He kept Alcantara he looked like he didn't know what to do off his back and was just facing some pretty tough ground and pound. There's still a lot to be desired with Kenny Robertson's stand-up as he rushes forward and throws strikes. I think other fighters will be able to capitalize on that. But, Kenny Robertson looks like he'll be kind of like that tough out. He'll be that fun action fighter. I was actually kind of surprised how many people picked Alcantara to win, because I saw Kenny Robertson was kind of improving. And I know he was a good wrestler always. He's improving his ground game. Stand-up still needs improvement, but or still needs work. But I kind of thought Robertson would win the way he did too. He's not like much of a prospect or anything like that, but he's good for the middle of the pack, something of a gatekeeper, because he's kind of a tough out too. Just more lower to mid-tier guys in the division for him. Same with Alcantara. Next fight after that, Bruno Santos defeated Chris Camozzi by split decision. Kind of thought this was a crap decision in the sense that I know Bruno Santos' game, and I actually picked him to win, and I was as the fight was going on, I was like, oh man, I don't know if he's going to beat him. And then when he got the split decision, I was like, wow, because Chris Camozzi did a lot more damage than Santos did. Santos' game is grinding. I mean, he is not a damage fighter. He's not a guy that's looking to damage opponent. He is a guy that is looking to lay and pray. He managed to do that for like 1.5 rounds, pretty much. I don't even think he managed to do that. Whether it was the second or third, he managed to get Camozzi down. I think it was the third. It really wasn't much, Santos is who he is. I mean, he's still young, but he is just such a grinder. I mean, the guy doesn't show much improvement. He's not crowd pleasing. He's just not having an aesthetically pleasing style fighting at all. I was a bit disappointed in Camozzi complaining about it, though. Like, oh, he just came to take me down and hug me. It's like, bro, yes, there's so much footage of him, of Bruno Santos, doing that to his opposition. You should have known that and countered that. Do more to get back to your feet then, I mean, seriously, it's cool you're throwing elbow strikes from your back, bro, but, I sound angry, but, it's just one of those cases where, this isn't like, this is competition, If you're rolling and he's doing that, yeah, it's kind of annoying, and, yeah, you're not really helping anyone there. But now this is competition, and he got and at the end of the day, Bruno Santos got the win. Chris Camozzi's on like a 3-fight losing streak and might get cut, and that's the way it is, I tend to underestimate Camozzi a lot. I was actually kind of surprised that Santos won. But 3 losses in a row for Camozzi isn't the greatest look. I mean, Camozzi's a good fighter. He's well-rounded enough. But, like I said, not a good look. I can see him getting cut. With Santos just more lower to mid-tier guys of the division. Next fight, I thought Rob Font defeated George Root by knockout in the first round. The reason why I am actually kind of kicking myself with not picking this right is I did a Q&A, and I actually said, my most recent Q&A said that I have a hard time picking George Root, but I'm getting a beat on the guy. He loses, and I said this, he loses to guys with heavy hands, but beats guys that are primarily grapplers. So with the heavy hands guys, it was just like Francisco Rivera, Cub Swanson, knocks him out, right? Grappling guys like Dustin Camara and whatnot, kind of have a hard time with Roop, And I watched Rob Font's fight. I see him knock out his last opponent. I forgot the name of the guy. And I was really impressed with his striking. And I was like, oh man, this guy's a good striker, capable of knocking guys out. But I picked against him. And I was actually, if you actually hear my predictions, I was actually pretty fond of Rob Font. But I'm like, oh, it's his first fight in the UFC. Tough test in George Roop. Oh, that's why I didn't pick Rob Font. So I kind of went against what I said I do. Look at the skill set. Rob Font's skill set is tailor-made for knocking out George Roop. And that's why I'm kind of kicking myself at this pick, because it's like, it's exactly the opposite of what I said and what I'm kind of about as far as like what I should be about as far as picking fights goes, and that's why I'm kind of kicking myself not picking Rob Font to beat George Root, because a lot of what I said was very much contradictory to what I predicted. Ugh, that was bad. Ronda, I like what I see from his stand-up. He hits good angles. He hits angles really well. He has good stand-up. He's pretty quick. He's pretty quick. His punch came first before Roop's. I'm curious to see what he's all about going forward. When George Roop gets knocked out, it is always he has very, I hate to say it, but it's very comical the way he gets knocked out. Whether it's his mouthpiece flying against Cub Swanson, or him just kind of running backwards and just running around a cage against Rivera, trying not to get hit, and eventually just falling to, getting hit while he's moving backwards and just tumbling. And this one he did, I think some person said it was the chicken dance or something like that when he was falling down. He just, when he gets knocked out, George Roop does, it's very comical. But yeah, word of advice to me and to everyone else, in George Roop fights, if you ever have a heavy-handed guy who can touch his chin, has good overhands, pick that guy to beat George Roop. If it's a grappler, you can side with the guy that's primarily a grappler. Yeah, you can side with George Roop. But heavy-handed, stand-up guys, generally speaking, beat George Roop. Ronda, both these guys are just more lower to mid-tier guys in the division, though. Next fight after that, Luke Zacharias defeated Guilherme Vasconcelos by unanimous decision. Improved striking from Zacharias, got him to win. Vasconcelos did not look very good here, and he doesn't have a lot of fights here. I picked him to win because I know his ground skills are really good. He didn't look good here. He probably needs more seasoning in the regional circuit. It's not much I can say about this fight. They're both lower tier fighters. It's more lower to mid tier guys in the division for both. And finally, Kevin Casey defeated Bubba Bush by TKO in the first round. This is actually what I've been seeing from Casey, and when he won the RFA title, this is kind of actually how he won too. His stand-up is improving. He's showing some heavy-handedness. I like the short elbows that he's throwing. Kevin Casey can be something of a fun action fighter. I think that you still got to wonder about his cardio though, because he's winning fights in the first round, but he looks like he is pacing himself a lot better. More lower to mid-tier guys of the division for both of them. So that's it for my post-fight analysis for UFC 175. If you have any comments, just leave them below. And that's it for MMA for you. Thank you guys very much.